full comparison between the iPhone 7 Plus versus the iPhone 6s Plus. The iPhone 6s Plus was released in September 2015 and the iPhone 7 Plus came to light in September 2016 after a full year. Both of these smartphones look almost identical, which is making some people wonder, is the iPhone 7 Plus better than the iPhone 6s Plus? Or is it actually worth upgrading from the 6s Plus to 7 Plus? And of course, you have people who either don't have a phone or belong to the Android realm who want to switch over to Apple but can't decide between the 6s Plus or the 7 Plus. Well, in this video, we will do a full and complete comparison of both the iPhone 6s Plus and the iPhone 7 Plus and tackle all those questions and concerns directly. Let's dive in and start off with the build quality. As you can see, the iPhone 6s and iPhone 7 look identical. They're built using 7000 series aluminum and are encased in a gorgeous unibody styling. When you hold either phone in your hands, you get a very satisfying and solid sensation. These phones are without a question premium devices, and they look equally gorgeous thanks to that smooth and continuous form factor. Now, when you inspect these phones a little closer, some little differences come to light. On the back, the iPhone 7 lacks those two annoying white strips that plague the iPhone 6s. They shouldn't have been there in the first place, and they're gone. Another thing that is gone is the headphone jack. When you buy the iPhone 7, you get earphones that plug directly into the only port you will find on the iPhone 7, the Lightning port. But don't worry, if you have older headphones, you still get a Lightning to 3.5mm headphone jack adapter just in case. And as you can see, the iPhone 7 Plus has a dual camera system which has a larger footprint on the top left side, and we will talk about the actual camera in a little bit. A non-visual tweak on the iPhone 7 is that the home button is now a solid state button that simply responds to pressure. Unlike on the iPhone 6s, it cannot be physically pressed in. It does, however, have a built-in taptic engine to give you haptic feedback, so you do know when you actually interact with it. And finally, here's a major improvement. The iPhone 7 is now water, splash, and dust resistant, rated with IP67 water resistance designation. This means that you can pull out your iPhone 7 on a rainy day to take a picture or take a phone call, and also not worry about accidental drops into a pond of water and such. But don't attempt to take your iPhone 7 for swimming, as it is not designed for such feats. So overall, we have two identical phones, equally well built and equally stunning. But the iPhone 7 has some clear improvements such as water resistance and elimination of older technology, the headphone jack. So let's move on to the processor. The iPhone 7 comes with a quad-core A10 Fusion processor and 3 GB of RAM, while the iPhone 6s comes with an A9 dual-core processor and 2 GB of RAM. Performance-wise, Apple has stated that the iPhone 7 has up to 40% faster processing performance and 50% faster graphics performance than the iPhone 6s, which is fantastic. Both the iPhone 7 and 6s, if purchased brand new, will start with a minimum of 32 GB of internal storage for the base model. With the iPhone 7, you can increase storage to 128 GB or 256 GB for a premium. But with the iPhone 6s, you can either get a 32 GB model or a 128 GB model. At the end of this video, I will run a processor and memory benchmark on both of these phones to see just how much faster the iPhone 7 is. So stay tuned for that. For now, let's move on to the display. Both phones sport a 5.5-inch IPS LCD display with a screen resolution of 1920 by 1080 pixels at 401 pixels per inches. Now, the display on the iPhones are pretty advanced. They are very bright and also have great color accuracy. The iPhone 7 actually improves on those 2 points. It is now 25% brighter, which means better visibility in bright environments, and also has a wider color gamut, which means even better color accuracy. So we do have an improvement in this category that is notable, though it's not a category to be too concerned about when trying to make a choice. So let's move on to dimensions. The dimensions are identical. Both phones measure 158.2mm in height, 77.9mm wide, and 7.3mm thick. But we do have a difference in weight. 6s weighs 192 grams, while the 7 weighs 188 grams. As you can see, this is a category of no concern unless you actually care about the 4-gram difference in weight. Let's move on to the software. Now, as far as software experience goes, you won't notice much of a difference. Both phones come with the latest version of iOS and they run as smooth as a phone can run. There's no lag, no stutters, everything just works. And you get access to the same app ecosystem, which means all apps and games you can have on the iPhone 7 can also be had on the iPhone 6s. One thing I will say is that, as we discussed, the iPhone 7 has faster processing and graphical performance, so it may give you a better experience with newer games that will be released in the future. As of now, the iPhone 6s certainly has the necessary internals to play any game with maximum quality and smoothness. And of course, the same applies with heavy-duty apps such as video editing apps. Additionally, the 6s and 7 have 3D Touch. 3D Touch has been improving and is getting more handier with every update to iOS. With 3D Touch, what you get is a pressure-sensitive screen that can sense how firmly you are pressing on the screen. Based on the force with which you press, it will offer you 2 functions, peek and pop. You can press lightly on the screen to peek into the content to get previews, and you can then press down even firmer to pop into the full content that you just previewed. You can also 3D press on an app icon to bring up menus that allow for quick actions such as the right-click button on a Windows system. 3D Touch also extends to in-app use, so you will get access to 3D Touch gestures within Apple apps and developer apps. So again, in a category as important as software, iPhone 6s and iPhone 7 offer pretty similar experiences, with the exception of the 7 potentially pulling ahead in the future with the release of more demanding apps and games. For now, let's move on to the camera. The iPhone 7 Plus actually sports a dual rear camera system. The main camera is a 12 megapixel wide-angle camera with an aperture of f1.8. The other camera is a telephoto camera, also with 12 megapixels, but with an aperture of f2.8. There are 2 reasons the second telephoto camera exists: to give you 2x optical zoom and to produce the effect of bokeh, where the background blurs out while the main subject stays in sharp focus. iPhone 6s Plus has a 12 megapixel rear-facing camera with an aperture of f2.2. Both the 7 and 6s have optical image stabilization. Now, as far as the main wide-angle camera is concerned, as you can see, the iPhone 7 now has a larger aperture, which has a direct benefit of better low-light photography, period. So the iPhone 7 Plus is going to be a much better camera. Not only does it have a larger aperture and a second telephoto camera for 2x optical zoom, it also has better image processing chip. When you add up all these improvements together, what you get as a result is a camera with glaringly obvious better low-light photos, as well as finer details and better and wider color capture. If you want the best iPhone camera, you have to look at the iPhone 7 Plus in comparison to the iPhone 6s Plus. But let me be very clear. If you decide to stick with the iPhone 6s Plus, just understand that the 6s camera is still much better than 90% of the smartphones out there today. It still produces very crisp and detail-rich photos, but obviously the 7 Plus is in fact a step up. As for video, both phones can record 4K video at 30 frames per second. You can also record full high definition 1080p videos at 60 or 30 frames per second. And you can record super slow motion videos at 720p with 240 frames per second, as well as 1080p slow motion video with 120 frames per second. We also have an upgrade on the iPhone 7 on the front camera. It is now 7 megapixels with f2.2 as opposed to 5 megapixels f2.2 camera on the iPhone 6s. And finally, the iPhone 7 can now record 1080p using front FaceTime camera, while the 6s was limited to 720p. So basically, you will get better selfies and enjoy crisper video conferencing. Let's give the crown in this department to the iPhone 7 and move on to the battery. Let's make this very simple. With the iPhone 7 Plus, you get 1 hour of extra battery life as opposed to the 6s Plus, period. And if you are curious, the capacity of the iPhone 7 is 2900 milliamp hours, while the iPhone 6s Plus is 2750 milliamp hours. Of course, the larger battery on the iPhone 7 isn't the only reason for the extra battery life. The other reason is the more efficient A10 Fusion processor. Overall, both the Plus phones will last a full day of medium to heavy use. But because the iPhone 7 Plus has a larger battery life and a longer battery life, you will get more done on the iPhone 7 Plus within that full day, such as perhaps squeezing a little extra gaming or video watching, or maybe wasting further time on your Facebook page or Twitter feed. Let's talk about security. Both phones sport the second generation Touch ID sensor, which works lightning fast and with 99.9% accuracy every single time. You can use the Touch ID sensor to unlock your phone, make payments via Apple Pay, sign into apps, and a few other useful things. Things look great here, so let's move on to the colors and pricing options. The iPhone 6s is available in space gray, silver, gold, and rose gold colors. It starts at $649 for the 32GB model, while the iPhone 7 is available in jet black, black, silver, gold, and rose gold colors. The 7 Plus starts at $769. And a quick word on the jet black color. It certainly is gorgeous. But Apple does warn in the fine print that nobody reads that due to its shiny surface, it is prone to micro abrasions, which means nasty scratches. So a case will be needed to protect it, although I recommend a case for any iPhone. And I know that a lot of you heard about the AirPods, but that's not an iPhone 7 exclusive accessory. The AirPods use Bluetooth technology, so you can buy them for any iPhone you want. Now let's quickly run a processor and memory benchmark tool to see what kind of speeds we can achieve with these two iPhones and whether or not the iPhone 7 is noticeably faster. We will be using the Geekbench benchmarking tool to make this comparison. So firstly, let's kill all the background tasks and launch Geekbench, and then I'm going to fast forward this video to the end so we can inspect the results. So the iPhone 7 is done with some mind-boggling numbers, and the 6s Plus is right there, and here we have it. So as you can see by looking at these numbers, both in single core and multi-core performance, the iPhone 7 kind of crushes the 6s Plus. That's not to say the 6s Plus is slow by any stretch of the imagination, but the 7 clearly is the faster phone. So let's draw a conclusion, but before that, let's quickly list everything important that has improved on the iPhone 7. iPhone 7 is water resistant. Say goodbye to water damage from spills and splashes or even accidental drops into water ponds. iPhone 7 has faster processing and graphical performance, which might be relevant to play the newest games at maximum performance and tackle heavy-duty apps, even faster than the 6s. It is important to note that the 6s is no slouch. iPhone 7 Plus has a better dual camera system. It has 2x optical zoom and a larger aperture. Again, despite that, the 6s Plus camera is still a great camera for a typical user. And there is one more improvement that I did not mention throughout this comparison, is that the iPhone 7 Plus now has dual stereo speakers that produce twice the sound as the iPhone 6s Plus. Now let's take a look at what is the same, what hasn't really changed. Both iPhones have a 5.5-inch screen with the same exact resolution. Both phones have a similar software experience and 3D touch. Both iPhones have the same design and dimensions. They have the same fingerprint technology. So iPhone 7 certainly has gained some improvements. But for someone who still owns an iPhone 6s, it will not be a major upgrade because the 6s is still a beast of a phone. However, if you own an iPhone 6 and decide to upgrade, you will notice a considerable difference, not counting the design. I say that if you own a 6s, do not upgrade until the next iPhone. If you own an iPhone 6, do upgrade and be amazed. But if you are one of those people who is coming from a different ecosystem, perhaps Microsoft or Android, and are trying to decide between the 6s and 7, I say get the 7 because it is only $100 more than the 6s. And the improvements you get for that $100 are in fact worth it. And that's it. So drop a comment below and let me know which phone you chose and why. Give me some details. And of course, give this video a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to Saki Tech. I will see you the next time. Have a fantastic day.